dark reality of meth addiction. It began innocently enough. I attended a house party with my friends during my early college years. I had a good time and we stayed until the bulk of the crowd had cleared out, since my friend was well acquainted with the host. Bored of crushing cheap beers and smoking weed, the host pulls out a Ziploc baggie containing something I'd never seen before. It was a bag of some kind of milky white crystallized substance. I jokingly asked, "Is that rock candy?" which elicited a roar of laughter from all the other stoned college kids. The host prepared a pipe and passed it to me. I was nervous, but I felt the eyes of my peers dig into me as I winced and took a drag. With that one hit, the course of my life was changed forever. That first high was beyond intense. I felt weightless and free. All my worries melted away. I was no longer worried about my upcoming exams, papers, or my next shift at work. Little did I know that my real problems were just about to start. Over the next several weeks, I found myself contacting the guy who had hosted the party just to see if he could set me up with another fix. I started to get anxious, wondering when I could get my hands on one more dose. I shelled out a small fortune, burning up the entire nest egg I was saving flipping burgers. I had been saving up to buy a new car, so I could be protected from the elements in the harsh Missouri winter, yet now I had to preserve myself from the darkness of my addiction. My girlfriend pleaded with me to get help, yet I refused, saying that I was fine and I would just figure it out on my own. The truth was that I did not want to quit. Even if I did, I didn't know how. When she left me, I knew I was sad. I wanted to stop her from leaving me, but I couldn't. I couldn't feel the heartache through the haze of withdrawal. I desperately wanted to be sad over the loss of my high school sweetheart, yet I found myself missing the high of my new love instead. Besides, now I would have more money to spend getting high, since I was single. My grades and part-time job also took a nosedive. I began failing all of my classes. Even the subjects that had previously interested me no longer held my attention. I stopped showing up to class and even got fired from my job since I routinely either was late or did not show up at all. I used to be a social butterfly, an extrovert type, but I found myself slowly morphing into a recluse, with no one to comfort me. My parents had always been kind and understanding people, but how could I face them like this? Their baby boy was a failure. Would they still love me now? The downward spiral was intense. I lost everything. Not only my savings, relationship, grades, and job, but also my health. I rapidly lost weight as my hair fell out in clumps. My skin became unbearably itchy. I would pick away at it, and it started to feel like it was melting right off of me. The skin that did remain was pale and riddled with acne, scars, and other deformities. My teeth began to yellow and rot, and my eyes became dull and took on a glossy appearance. My mental state also was severely impacted. I was constantly anxious and nervously on edge at all times. I could not sleep and regularly would be awake for extended periods of time that could last days on end. I even lashed out violently in anger at the smallest slight. I began this futile search for a fix to alleviate my worries. The substance that had taken away my worries only served to multiply them exponentially. I fundamentally did not recognize myself, neither in the mirror nor in my fractured memory. I was no longer myself. I had become hollowed out by this addiction. The story you just heard is a fictional account of a young man's struggle with methamphetamine addiction. Although it is a dramatization, it does highlight many key aspects of methamphetamine addiction. I highlighted the common consequences of meth use and wanted to provide a humanizing lens that digs deeper than only citing sterile statistics. This drug crisis is a real and urgent problem that exists and must be addressed. The Columbia Daily Tribune, with data compiled from rehabs.com, reported that Missouri had 27.6 meth labs per 100,000 residents. Authorities regard the state as America's meth production capital. There are 56,000 annual users of methamphetamine in Missouri that are aged 26 and older. For young adults aged 18 to 25, the user percentage in Missouri is reported to be 0.44 compared to the national proportion of 0.50. Resecuring the future through cognitive behavioral therapy. Even though addiction is scary, leaving the user alone at rock bottom, recovery is still possible. You do not have to do this alone. Recovery can come in many forms, ranging from cold turkey abstinence-only programs to harm reduction models that slowly detox the addict in a controlled manner. Rehabilitation can come in the form of both outpatient and inpatient services. There are also individual and group therapy options. One of the most effective treatments for both substance use disorders and other mental health conditions is cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is a type of psychotherapy that focuses on conversations between the client and the therapist. In CBT, therapists look to replace negative thinking patterns by replacing negative feelings and thoughts to encourage positive behavioral changes. When applying CBT to a substance use disorder, or SUD, like methamphetamine addiction, it is important to keep in mind the intense reinforcing nature of drugs. The longer that one has used methamphetamine, the more the behavior will have been reinforced, creating a difficult habit to break. Over time, these positive, enhancing social experiences and negative, reducing negative effect, reinforcing effects become associated with a wide variety of both internal and external stimuli. In layman's terms, this means that both negative and positive experiences related to methamphetamine use become deeply ingrained in the user's life. For example, the addict remembers the good feelings of being high, as well as the negative consequences that the drug has had on their life, like the ones in the dramatization. The core elements of CBT aim to mitigate the strongly reinforcing effects of substance abuse by either increasing the contingency associated with non-use, or by building skills to facilitate reduction of use and maintenance of abstinence, and facilitating opportunities for rewarding non-drug activities. In other words, CBT combats the reinforcing characteristics of drug use by increasing the strength of associations of non-use. CBT focuses on these non-use memories and experiences in order to get the user to relate to their former life and work for a brighter, drug-free future. Although empirical support for these interventions is promising, it is most often garnered through efficacy studies in which the treatment is carried out under optimal conditions. However, most SUD treatments occur in service provision settings under conditions that are far from optimal. A limited body of effectiveness research has been conducted examining these treatments without the stringent controls afforded by efficacy trials. This means that CBT has been proven effective for treating SUDs like methamphetamine use in controlled studies, but has yet to be adequately tested in the field environment. Despite this, CBT remains one of the most effective therapies for recovering drug addicts. If you or anyone you know is suffering from any substance addiction, do not be afraid to call a rehabilitation center or help hotline. For your convenience, I listed some on screen, and I will also be putting them in the video's description. The best way to help is to reach out to people you know. Check in on your family, friends, classmates, and coworkers. The people best positioned to help are the ones who observe those in need firsthand. Life is worth living. Do not be afraid of the legal consequences of drug abuse. Comprehensive help is available. It's not too late to be saved.